Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Paying for College session presented by Sam Houston State University and the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. My name is Claire Collins. I'll be walking you through our advice on how to help pay for college and specifically some things you can do to familiarize yourself with the financial aid process and the scholarship process at Sam Houston State University. I would like to point out that if at any time you have questions during this live web chat, feel free to ask. Also, if you'd like to ask us any direct questions, please feel free to direct your correspondence to me directly at admissions@shsu.edu. So let's go ahead and get started. So, financial responsibility. One of the biggest misconceptions that I see students have all the time, whether that be international students, transfer students, or incoming freshmen, is that they feel that financial aid should pay for 100% of their education. And I want to key in on a word here, aid, financial aid. Basically what that means is financial aid is not designed to cover 100% of your college expenses. It is designed to help offset the cost of college. And we're going to talk a little bit about different types of financial aid you may receive from the federal government, the state of Texas, and specifically Sam Houston throughout this presentation. So there's a lot of different types of financial aid out there. Okay, they kind of come in a variety of different formats. Some is self-help. That means like if you had a job. Gift aid would be money from a grandparent, a check that you take to the school. Scholarships, grants and waivers, work study, and loans are all things we're going to cover in depth in this presentation. So if at any point in time you have questions about them, feel free to ask. So how do you get started with financial aid? Well, the big thing is to fill out your free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA as we call it. This can be done now. It opened on January 1st, and it opens every January 1st for the academic year. Okay, one of the key things with the FAFSA is that you are required to fill it out every year if you want to continue receiving federal financial aid to attend university. So for the 2015-16 academic year, the FAFSA is already open. It opened January 1st. So you'll want to check with your colleges to find out what their FAFSA deadline is, but I can tell you that for Sam Houston State, the priority deadline for the FAFSA is March 15th. So you'll want to write that down. And the reason I say that is that's one of the most important dates that you'll ever receive from a college. A lot of times students wait until later on in the semester to start filling out their FAFSA information. And sometimes they miss out on some wonderful grant opportunities that they could have been a part of. So I highly encourage you to sit down with your parents, make sure they fill out their income taxes in a timely manner, and fill out the FAFSA. In fact, if your parents haven't filled out their income tax information yet, you can already begin filling out the FAFSA online with your expected income and then go back and edit later. Another life pro tip as far as getting your FAFSA in, we have to actually receive it by the 15th. You can't just send it to us on the 15th. So when I tell you that it's due on the 15th, it has to be at the university in our hands by then. And it takes 2 or 3 days for us to receive it. So keep that in mind when you're filling it out, is if you're filling it out on the 10th, we'll probably receive it on the 13th, okay? Now, there's a lot of different formats of the FAFSA. The easiest one to use is going to be the online version, which you can reach at www.fafsa.ed.gov. The reason this one is particularly easy to use is it literally has step-by-step instructions on how to fill out the FAFSA, a wonderful help toggle tool, and it also has a way that you can link your IRS tax statements into that document so that you're not having to go search for paperwork with your parents. I'll also say that if you're old school and you like to fill out that paper FAFSA, you can go ahead and request one at the number below, that 1-800 number. Below that, I have listed a really, really great FAFSA help link. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and highlight it. This is one of my favorite resources that students have available to them. So if you go to this website and you're having trouble with the FAFSA, there's a couple of options you have, okay? You're always free to call Sam Houston State University, and we're happy to walk you through the FAFSA instructions. However, if you'd like instant help, they have a really great chat session available to students on the FAFSA website, as well as having an online hotline. And the reason I particularly mention this is that if at any point in time you want the expert opinion on if you should, click yes or no to a certain question, the FAFSA website is maintained by federal employees who are experts at navigating this form. I have found in personal experience that the online web chat is particularly helpful, especially for students needing any sort of bilingual assistance. So if you're needing any type of extra help or you're just not sure where to start, make sure you seek out all of your resources. Okay, so why do you fill out the FAFSA? So basically you put a lot of financial information into the FAFSA website and it spits out a number for you, okay? It's called your expected family contribution, or your EFC. That's the language you're going to hear at most universities. You'll hear us talk a lot about the FAFSA and your EFC. So the EFC, after you fill out your information on the FAFSA, is basically what the federal government thinks that your family can reasonably be expected to contribute towards your education. So this number stays the same regardless of what college you've applied to or plan to attend. So I think that's particularly important to remember, is that your expected family contribution does not change whether you go to Sam Houston State or a community college or an Ivy League school. That number will always remain the same. So using your EFC, we then use that information to determine how much aid you will be awarded throughout the year. Another piece of terminology you hear all the time at colleges is your cost of attendance. Basically what that is that's your tuition and fees, room and board, books and supplies, transportation, and miscellaneous personal expenses like gas money, things like that. So what they do is they take your cost of attendance and your EFC. So your cost of attendance, say for Sam Houston State University, is roughly $22,000. If your estimated family contribution is $2,000, then that means that you have $20,000 of unmet need, which means that at some point in time, you or your family will need to come up with either financial aid and scholarships or some other outside gift aid of about $20,000, okay? It's important to remember also that if you're looking for the estimated cost of attendance for any university, all of that information is legally required to be available on their website. It is available at Sam Houston, and if you have any questions about the cost of attendance, you're always free to reach out to us. So how are you going to pay for all of this? Well, one of the ways that some students help pay for college is through federal and state grants. Not every student qualifies for federal and state grants, and this is free money, okay? Basically, if you pay taxes, you've been putting money into this pot for a long time, and we're giving a little bit of it back to you. So on the federal side, there's the Pell Grant, the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, and the Teach Grant. Now, some students will find that they are not eligible for these grants because their estimated family contribution is too high. If you'd like to learn if you qualify for any of these grants, I highly recommend checking out a wonderful website called collegeforalltexans.com. We're going to see that website pop up a couple of times during this presentation, and it is available at the end in our resources tab. So on the state side, you're going to see a couple of more interesting grants. So the Texas Grant is a big one that I get a lot of questions about from students. The Texas Grant is probably one of the most generous grants provided by the state of Texas. Students do have a mandatory estimated family contribution that goes along with that, and they must graduate on either the recommended or the distinguished plan from the state of Texas. Now, something that students don't realize about these grants is that these grants are renewable, meaning potentially you could get them all 4 years you're in college. Something that I always tell my students is if you get the Texas Grant, consider that a gift, okay? A gift that you want to cherish for 4 years. So there are renewal requirements for this grant, which means that once you get to college, you have to keep your GPA up to keep these grants. For instance, for Texas Grant, you need at least a 2.5 cumulative GPA your entire collegiate career to keep this grant. Now, a 2.5 GPA may not seem like we're asking for a lot, but especially when you consider that first year transitioning onto a college campus, you want to make sure you put your best foot forward and you don't, hurt yourself later on down the road because you weren't paying attention that first semester. There's another grant available for students that we call TPEG, okay? It's the Texas Public Education Grant. Now this grant, not every student gets. This grant is determined by the school itself, who will get it, okay? So that's something that's important to remember is just because you qualify for certain grants doesn't mean you will always get it. However, if you have a low estimated family contribution, EFC, remember that you're always free to call any financial aid office and ask them about opportunities that may be available to you for grants or for loans. TPEG is a great one to call about. So again, I want to stress the priority deadline is March 15th. On our screen, you can see priority deadline for the Texas grant, March 15th. I cannot stress how important that is. Don't miss out on the opportunity to lose a lot of great grant money just because you weren't able to fill out the FAFSA in a timely manner. You're literally talking about saving $20,000 on your education if you qualify for this grant. And if you miss that opportunity, it's $20,000 down the drain, okay? So remember to keep on top of that. Okay, moving on to one of my favorites, work study. Okay, so remember earlier I was saying that students had a cost of attendance and then they also had their estimated family contribution. So let's say that you're awarded grants and you're awarded financial aid and you're awarded loans and you have all of that information and then you still have some unmet need. Say that that's $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000. Well, a lot of times you'll qualify for something called work study. So what this is it's need-based financial aid, and you get to earn money to help pay for your educational expenses. All work study jobs pay at least minimum wage, some pay more, and you get paid at least monthly. It's a part-time job, basically. Now at Sam Houston State University, if you're interested in work study, something I can tell you now is you need to make sure and click the box on the FAFSA website saying that you want to be put in work study. Also, you can help yourself out, and once you're accepted into the university, go to the Jobs for Cats website provided by Career Services and fill out your student work profile. We try to keep applying for jobs as similar to applying for real-world jobs as possible. It gives you some really great interview practice, and it gets you in the habit of filling out online resumes, okay? So make sure you check out Jobs for Cats for any and all jobs available on campus, and especially those work study jobs. If you ever have questions about work study or you think you're interested in it, again, I highly recommend reaching out to financial aid. They're always more than happy to answer those questions for you. So, the big one, loans, okay? Now, as we all know, as a student, you hate to take out loans if you don't need to, but with the rising cost of attendance at colleges and universities, sometimes loans are an inevitability. So, there's a couple of different types. There's federal loans and there's alternative loans. So, federal loans are subsidized, unsubsidized, and Parent Plus loans. Alternative loans are private consumer loans from an outside bank or corporation, and usually you want to use those as a last option because they can have very high interest rates, okay? Also, those alternative loans, if they're coming from an outside lender, sometimes you'll have to start paying those back right away, which we try to avoid if at all possible. So I want you to keep in mind that you don't want to use those if you don't have to. Now, a little bit more about those loans from the federal government. There's subsidized loans, which are need-based. These loans don't accrue interest while you are a student in school. An unsubsidized loan is not need-based. If you apply for the FAFSA, any student is able to take it out, right? And your interest accrues from the date that it was first disbursed. For instance, if I am a student at Sam Houston State University and we started school yesterday, my loan was processed from the day it was disbursed. So if my loan was disbursed yesterday, I'm already collecting interest on it. Now, something that's pretty great about these federal loans is you don't have to pay them back while you're in school. You buy yourself a grace period. So once you graduate, it takes 6 months for that grace period to end. Now, something to note is if at any point in time you take a break in your college education, aside from summer, they give you the summer for free. If you take a break, say you decide you're going to take a year off to work, if you have taken out loans, those loans will go into repayment. And this grace period is only good for the grace period is only good one time. You don't earn it back. So let's say that you start as a freshman, you take out a loan, you leave because you're having family problems or you decide to work or you're going to do something else, maybe go travel the world. So you take out this loan and after 6 months it goes into repayment. Once you come back to school, you don't have to pay on your loans anymore. They hold for you there. But then immediately after you graduate, you're going to start having to pay those back. So remember that you only have 1 6-month grace period, and it's very important that you keep up with how you use it. So, federal direct student loans. So there are maximum amounts that you can get for your loans every year. For freshmen, that's $5,500. For sophomores, it's $6,500. And for juniors and seniors, it's $7,500. Now, something that's important to note is that this is based on your academic classification, unless you are a freshman. Anyone who is an incoming freshman will only qualify for that $5,500, and that's especially important for our dual credit students who may have a sophomore level academic credential. You will still only qualify for that $5,500 your first year on campus. Now, your second year, if you jump up to junior standing, you will then jump up to that amount of $7,500, but your first year, you will always get $5,500. So the Parent Plus loan, okay? This is a loan that your parents take out. This loan isn't under your name. So it is based on your parents' credit. They have to be approved for this loan, and you can borrow up to the cost of attendance, okay? Now, sometimes you'll find that your parents may be denied. If you are denied due to adverse credit, you do not have to pursue that loan any further. And you, the student, in your name can be offered another direct additional unsubsidized loan. And depending on your cost of attendance, the amount changes. Traditionally, it's between $4,000 and $5,000. So that's important to remember. Parents, it's not required that you take out any loans on behalf of your children, but it's also important to note that this is a loan that's taken out in your name. This is not a loan that at any point in time your student will be legally held liable for. So it'll be important to remember that you will have to pay these loans back. Scholarships. My favorite type of aid is free money, okay? So scholarships are money awarded on the basis of merit, skill, unique characteristics, and it doesn't have to be paid back. So the best thing I like to tell freshmen is, if you're an incoming freshman, it's easier to get scholarships from a four-year university once you're already on our campus, okay? Just speaking very honestly. So a pro tip I like to tell you all is that universities love to give out money, especially to students who have already proven that they have what it takes to make it on a college campus. And one of the things I like to tell you all is your local chapters of, say you're in FFA, or you're on the high school swim team, or you're in band, a lot of times they have a scholarship fund. Seek out those opportunities. I always tell freshmen a smart bet is to try and pay as much for your first year as possible from outside scholarships and count on your university more your sophomore, junior, and senior year. Now, that's not saying that there aren't some great scholarship opportunities out there, but there are fewer for freshmen. Some of the freshman scholarships are really fancy scholarships, big dollar scholarships. And you hear the words 4-year full ride getting thrown around a lot. And that's very popular. And we do give out a lot of those. Universities across the country give those out. But not every student is going to get a 4-year full ride. So it doesn't matter how you pay for college. It doesn't matter if you pay for it through a $120,000 scholarship or if you nickel and dime your way through it. If you pay it $500 at a time through scholarships, your money is still good, okay? So one of the things I want to highly encourage you to check out is these websites I've listed underneath. StudentScholarships.org is a great website, and studentaid.ed.gov/scholarships, also a wonderful scholarship website. There's another scholarship website I've listed a little later in our resources tab called FastWeb. Now the reason it's not here is that these scholarships websites that are listed aren't necessarily search engines for scholarships. FastWeb is almost like an email that you can sign up for every day to talk about scholarships you may qualify for. Now I'm going to warn you up front. They really do send you an email every single day about scholarship opportunities. So if you don't like getting spammed, this may not be a good option for you. However, if you spend a little time and fill out a really good, solid profile of who you are as a student on FastWeb, sometimes you see scholarships pop up that you didn't even know existed. Local ones, national ones, some for being left-handed, some for, having hazel eyes, things like that. If you're looking for some kind of offbeat type scholarships, FastWeb is a great place and a great resource to check out. So, scholarships at Sam Houston. So, how to apply? We try and keep everything pretty straightforward at Sam Houston. I think you've probably found that in the application process. So, applying for scholarships. The big thing I like to stress to students is before you apply for scholarships, you have to be accepted. So if you haven't already filled out your application to Sam Houston, I highly encourage you do that now, because our scholarship deadline is always February 1st for our ScholarX application. That's the priority deadline. And while the scholarship application does remain open, committees start gathering and awarding those scholarships pretty much right away. Now, what is ScholarX? It's our one-stop shop for most Sam Houston scholarships. It includes all 6 colleges at Sam Houston and will soon include the 7th college for the College of Health Sciences. Okay, their part of the application is still connected to the College of Sciences. So if you're looking for those scholarship opportunities, that's where they are. You will use your SHSU credentials once you're accepted to log in, and you will complete and submit the application. Now, something that students kind of feel overwhelmed about ScholarX is we have all of the application sections open for every college online. However, you don't have to fill out each single section. You need to fill out the information section at the very beginning, and then you'll want to scroll down to your appropriate college and fill out that section. For instance, if you're a criminal justice major, there's no reason you need to fill out the section for College of Sciences. If at any point in time you feel like your major isn't represented within one of the colleges, I highly recommend that you check out our undergraduate catalog to see what college your major falls into. And if you have any questions after that, please feel free to contact admissions and we'll walk you through the process. Now, here's some ScholarX tips and tricks. Okay, so they're going to ask you to write some essays, okay? Don't be afraid. Anytime someone wants to give you free money, it's worth investing a couple of hours to write a couple of essays. Now, you need to have high standards for your essays. Have them ready. I'm going to give you a pro tip and let you know that at Sam Houston State, we're all about service. Okay, so that can be community service, service to yourself, service to your school, service to others. I can almost guarantee you that at some point in time, you're going to see an essay topic about service and what it means to you and how you've applied it in your real life. So that's an essay you can get started on now, even if you haven't been accepted. It's important, too, that when you submit your essays, you have someone look it over beforehand. You want to remember that we know a lot about you, okay, but what we know about you is facts and numbers. We know that, you were in the top 10% of your class or the top quarter and that you made a 28 on your ACT or things like that. However, what we don't know is why you like band. What makes that the best thing in the world to you? And it's your job in those essays to explain things like that to me so I get a sense of who you are as a person as well as a student. In addition to that, an essay is just a great way to show off your writing skills. I mean, really take the time to blow us out of the water with these essays, because a lot of times that's what makes or breaks a student when it comes to scholarship is your overall GPA and your test score and your class rank. That all is part of the equation, but it's hard to say no to a student that you already know and like, okay? So basically your essay is how you convey information to us. I will also tell you that in your essay, it's important that your essay not read like a resume. there's a section for you to fill out your resume information, and you can get your resumes actually updated on the Sam Houston campus through Career Services, and they're located in AB4. That's not a problem. But if your essay is reading more like a list of things you've done in high school, that's not exactly a thrilling read for me, okay? So make sure that you expound upon what you've already told us. Remember, you don't want to repeat yourself many, many times. If you've supplied a resume and you've said you're in Math Honor Society, Mu Alpha Theta, or something like that, you've already told us that. We know you're involved in that. So unless you had a leadership position that you thought was incredibly meaningful, it's not necessary for you to go back in and list that you are a part of that organization. We already know, and it's fine if you spend your time elsewhere on that resume. And I highly encourage that you do that. Also, if you have any questions about essay writings, I highly recommend that you reach out to the resources currently available to you. For instance, high school English teachers are a great person to ask about essays, especially if you have one that is particularly hard on you. Never underestimate the value of a teacher that's tough on you. Another great resource is actually located right here on our campus. It's the Sam Houston State University Writing Center in the Farrington building. Now, they're not always able to critique essays for incoming students. However, they do have some availability and would love to walk you through some of the steps and tips and tricks they've used to help get scholarships. Now, a little bit more about ScholarX. Like I said before, ScholarX is broken into sections. If it doesn't apply to you, skip it, okay? Deadlines are very, very important. I'm going to tell you again, February 1st is the priority deadline for ScholarX. Please try to have it filled out by then. We will start committee meetings and internal processing after that date. Letters of recommendation. I see a lot of students make little mistakes on letters of recommendation. Please make sure when asking for a letter of recommendation, you need the email address of the student, parent, teacher, outside resource, pastor, friend, volleyball coach that you're going to use. Make sure it's the right email address. Now, if you make a mistake, that's okay. You can contact financial aid and they can fix it for you. However, it's best to be sure the first time so you don't miss out on any opportunities. Another thing is your letters of recommendation, they can be edited after submitting the application. That's okay. You've got time. Also, it's important to note, your letters of recommendation can't be viewed by you. These are private, okay? So once they're submitted by the teacher or whoever else you're using as a reference, you can't see that. So make sure you ask someone that's going to give you a really positive letter of recommendation, or maybe even highlight some things that you all have done together that they can talk about within their essays. Now, scholarships at Sam Houston. 2 of our largest scholarships require a separate application. Those scholarships are the Terry Foundation Scholarship and the Smith-Hudson Scholarship. Now, I've listed both of their websites on this slide. I'm going to give you a second to write those down because they're very, very important. Okay. So, the Terry Foundation Scholarship. Terry Foundation at Sam Houston State University is due on February 1st. That's a hard deadline. Now, if you're wanting some information about Terry Foundation, I highly recommend that you just go to the website I've listed, and you can actually access the application for the scholarship there. If you have any questions about Terry Foundation, I highly recommend that you either reach out to them directly at their website listed at their email address listed on their website, or feel free to reach out to admissions. We're more than happy to answer any questions you may have about Terry Foundation scholarships. Another really great scholarship is actually offered through our College of Business. It's called the Smith-Hudson Scholarship, and it's due on February 15th. Okay, so it's a little later than normal. So if you're planning on applying to both of those scholarships, remember, you want to have your Terry Foundation one done first and then submit your Smith-Hudson Scholarship because you'll buy yourself 2 extra weeks. Something to remember when you're filling out both of these scholarships is that you will not receive an instantaneous response to either of them. Both of these scholarships require interviews and committee meetings, meaning at some point in time, if you were considered a finalist for either of these scholarships, you will have to meet with a group of people to have an interview to determine whether or not you will actually be a recipient. Something else I'd like to point out is for a long time, the Smith-Hudson Scholarship has been a scholarship only for business majors. That's kind of how it's got its start. However, at this point in time, anyone attending Sam Houston State University is free to apply for the Smith-Hudson Scholarship. So if you think you're an outstanding student and you're dedicated to service, I highly recommend that you apply for both of these scholarships. Now, waivers and exemptions. Okay, waivers and exemptions is a little bit of a gray area because there's a lot of waivers and exemptions out there. Now, every exemption has different eligibility requirements, okay? So if you're looking for a waiver and exemption and you know you qualify for one, say you are a foster student or a ward of the state and you know that you've qualified for a tuition and fees waiver, you'll definitely want to check out the College for All Texans website online. Okay, now these waivers and exemptions are a type of financial aid, but when you're turning in your waiver or exemption, you actually don't turn it into financial aid at Sam Houston. You'll turn it into the bursar's office once you've generated a fee statement, which is generated after you register for classes. So you'll want to start getting your documents together so that you can get your waiver or your exemption cleared, but at this point in time, you just hang on to that piece of paper. There's nothing to be done with it quite yet. Senate Bill 1528. Now, Senate Bill 1528 actually goes by two names. We hear Senate Bill 1528 or House Bill 1403. These are the same students. Basically, these are students who, there's certain non-citizens, permanent residents of the state of Texas that qualify for financial aid. Some students, these students are not eligible to fill out the FAFSA. Okay, you will have to fill out the TAFSA, which is provided by the state of Texas. Now, one of the things that students need to know is that the TAFSA is currently not available in an online format. There is a paper copy available, and you will have to request that from the institution you will be receiving. Another thing that's very important to remember about filling out the TAFSA is you must fill out each individual section. Nothing can really be left blank, and no checkbox can be left unchecked. So make sure when you're filling out your TAFSA that you really pay attention to every single line item that is there. I will tell you that because this is particularly tricky, if any students or parents would like to reach out to financial aid from Sam Houston State University, we're more than happy to walk you all through the TAFSA process. Okay, so some financial aid pro tips. I already mentioned fastweb.com and why I think it's a pretty great website. I'm going to warn you again, if you have any issue being spammed by them, and they will email you every day, you might want to limit how many emails they can send you. You can actually have emails sent to you in a bundle, meaning you'll only get one email, a large one, a day, okay? Again, you want to remember to use the FAFSA.ed.gov website. That is probably your best tool that you can use to help filling out the FAFSA. I'm going to mention again that they do have a wonderful chat online, and they have a wonderful 1-800 number that you can call for help. Again, if you ever need any help filling out your FAFSA, they should be your first point of contact. And if at some point you decide that that's not good enough, feel free to contact us here at Sam Houston. I'm also listing here the Jobs for Cats website. This website can be accessed through our Career Services website, but I thought I'd give you all a direct link. Okay, so again, if you're going to qualify for work study or you want to be employed as a student worker on the Sam Houston campus, feel free to fill out your student profile once you've been accepted, and then you can start applying for jobs. Now, if you're an incoming freshman and you've already been accepted and you've filled out your student profile, you're not eligible to apply for jobs just yet. You need to wait at least until the summer before you come to school. Now, if you want to start filling out applications once you've attended freshman orientation or something like that, that's a little bit better timeline for you. But other than that, All the on-campus jobs are going to be held in that Jobs for Cats website. I can tell you that there's a multitude of opportunities for student workers on our campus. In undergraduate admissions alone, we have 19 student workers. Some of them are work study and some of them are not. So don't think that it's not available to you. I will tell you too, as a small pro tip, the biggest employers of student workers on our campus are our Student Rec Center, and they do everything from help take tickets at basketball games to swiping cards when students go into the gym, and the library at our university. So the library is actually open beyond normal operating hours. Some days they're 24 hours and some days they're open until midnight or 2 a.m. But the library hosts a lot of different students and houses a lot of student workers. So if you're interested, remember that those are the two largest employers on our campus, so it might behoove you to start there. Another great resource once you're a student at Sam Houston State University is our award-winning Student Money Management Center. I can't speak highly enough about this resource on our campus. It's maybe one of the best hidden gems on our campus. The Student Money Management Center offers a multitude of workshops every single semester highlighting things from how to budget, how to make laundry detergent very cheaply, how to shop for an apartment, how to pick a roommate, how to buy books very cheaply. Also, they do one-on-one personal peer reviews. So if at any point in time you feel like maybe you're not getting enough out of your financial aid, or you want to look into local scholarships for college students within the Walker County and Huntsville area, you're always free to reach out to them. I highly recommend this resource to students because at this point in time, I don't think anybody is saying that college is really, really affordable. The word we use a lot is accessible. And the trick is, how do you make college accessible for you? The Student Money Management Center is one of the resources that helps best highlight how you can afford college on your budget. This is an excellent resource for students. I highly recommend making an appointment with them. Their doors are always open and they love to talk to students, and they are fabulous at what they do. I will also tell you that as a student at Sam Houston State University, we highly recommend taking one of our introductory classes called University 1301. This class is kind of an introduction to college, and it covers things like spirit items at Sam Houston. It covers writing skills, getting you up to par, and things like that. We have a number of students that take it. Traditionally, they're all freshmen, and typically about 75% of our incoming freshman class actually takes this course. It's taught by some of our directors and assistant directors on campus. It's taught by a wide variety of people on this campus. One of the things I like best about this particular program is that you can take University 1301 from our director of orientation, or you can take it from one of our assistant VPs on campus. They all love to teach this class, and they have a plethora of knowledge about how to succeed on a college campus. It's really, really useful. In addition to that, that class includes things like study skills so that you can stay on top of your game so you can renew things like Texas Grant, and it includes a budgeting session so that you can figure out, how am I going to pay for college? I was thinking I was going to be here for 4 years. Maybe it's going to be 5 now. How do I pay for that 5th year? But those are the kinds of things they cover in that class. It's a really practical class that is a good investment for any student. At this time, we've reached the end of our presentation. If any students have any questions, I highly recommend that you go ahead and ask now, and I'm happy to answer them. In addition to that, our contact information is listed on this slide. So if at any point in time you'd like to get in touch with us directly, you're more than welcome to do that. At this time, I'll begin taking questions. So one of the questions we've received is, what are our classroom sizes at Sam Houston State University? Classroom sizes can vary. They can vary greatly, especially depending on your introductory classes. So if you're taking History 1301, which is a very popular introductory class for students, that's early American history, class sizes are what we call auditorium style. So these classes can range from anywhere from 50 students to a little over 100 students. However, once you get into your specialized degree program, classes start getting much smaller. Our largest program is going to be criminal justice. So any classes in there will have slightly larger class sizes than average. For instance, I was an English major at the university, so my class sizes were often not the average, 30 students per professor. At my classes, I had 4 classes while I was a senior here that had 11 people in them. Okay, so class sizes can get pretty small and pretty intimate, and I will tell you from personal experience that if you ever take a class with 11 people in it, do your reading every single day. Another question I've received from a student is, how do you check your application status? That's a great question. So, if you would like to check your application status, you'll simply go to the Sam Houston website, which is www.shsu.edu, and you'll hover your cursor over the word admissions, and then you'll scroll down to check your status. You will need your SAM ID and your PIN number to log into this. If you don't have your SAM ID or your PIN number, you're free to call admissions and get your SAM ID and then reset your PIN if you'd like. However, I highly recommend checking your email first, as most of the time after you've applied, we will send you an email thanking you for your application, and your SAM ID will be located in bold at the bottom of the letter. Okay, another question I've gotten from students is, what are some of your more popular majors at the university? So I think one of the things Sam Houston is best well known for is being a really diverse campus in all aspects. And what this means for students is we have a plethora of majors, everything from criminal justice and education and musical theater that are in, sort of the liberal arts, to things like engineering technologies, and our nursing program are also very popular. Of course, one of the programs that we were sort of built upon is education, criminal justice, and ag. So if you're interested in any of those, if you're interested in becoming a doctor or a vet, or you're interested in becoming a nurse, or you're interested in becoming the next great dancer, Sam Houston could be a really great school for you. Okay, so one of our questions is, I'm at a community college and I will be completing my second year. Can I transfer to Sam Houston in the fall? Will I need to do another FAFSA? Okay, so that's a great question. So if you're a community college student and you're going to be transferring in the fall, it's important for you to know what our admission standards are for transfer students. At this time, if you're a student applying for transfer in the fall, you need to have at least 12 transferable credit hours, and you need to have at least a 2.5 GPA to gain admittance into the university. If you have 18 hours or more of transferable credit, you need a 2.0 to gain entrance into the university. I think it's always really important to note for transfer students that remedial classes do not count as transferable coursework. So when you're looking at how many hours you've taken, it's important that you subtract those hours out. You will need to fill out a new FAFSA for this year. However, if you've already filled out the FAFSA for 2015 and 2016, or you plan on filling it out a little later this semester, you don't need to fill out a new one every time you switch universities or colleges. All you need to do is log back on the FAFSA website and request that information be sent to your new university. Now, if you're a transfer student, we do have several scholarships that are available for you as a transfer. The biggest one that we have is called the Bearcat Transfer Scholarship. And if you'd like to learn more information about that, I highly recommend that you check out our financial aid and scholarships website and click on Transfer Students. The reason I mention this is that the Bearcat Transfer Scholarship changes in amount based on your GPA. It starts at a 2.75 GPA, and you have to have at least 48 transferable credit hours. But basically, if you have at least a 2.75 GPA or higher and you've never been a student at Sam Houston State University, you could potentially start qualifying for an automatic scholarship that's good for 2 years. So don't miss out on any opportunities for scholarships because you're a transfer student. I will also mention that if you're planning on transferring in the fall, but you already have quite a bit of coursework done, it would make sense for you to go ahead and apply now. The reason I mention that is, just like for the freshmen, you have to be fully accepted before you apply for Scholar X. So if you're wanting to do that, you have to get in before that February 1st deadline. And if you have a high enough GPA, that shouldn't be a problem. I will also mention that the Smith-Hudson Foundation does currently have a few transfer scholarships. However, at this time, they are only available for business majors. Another question we received is, can I be awarded multiple scholarships? Absolutely, you can be awarded multiple scholarships. Some students will be awarded 2 or 3 scholarships. Some students will be awarded 1. Some students will be awarded none, unfortunately. I will say that a lot of it does have to do with that ScholarX application and your current coursework. If you're a freshman, it's important that you highlight who you are as a student. Oftentimes, students who are already applying for ScholarX, who are already students on our campus, we already know who they are. We know what they're capable of and what their leadership skills are and what they're going to give back to the university. But you freshmen, y'all are a little bit of a wild card for us. We know that you've done well in the past, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do well in the future. So what you have to do is convince me that you can. So another question we've received is, are my SAT or ACT scores used for scholarships at SAM? If you're an incoming freshman, they absolutely are. We are going to take a pretty good look at those. You're not going to necessarily be penalized if you have one score that's a lot higher than the other, or if you didn't test well on one occasion. So I wouldn't read too much into that, because this is all about getting a good sense for a student's academic ability. And also, I want you to remember that a large part of scholarship has to do with academic ability, but also what is this student bringing to this campus that we don't already have. For instance, not every student needs to be a leader to be a good candidate for a scholarship. We talk about leadership a lot as being a quality that people are looking for. However, people who are industrious or who are a little more introverted, who might not like leadership roles quite as much, there's still a space for you. You just have to figure out how to find your personal voice. I think that that's something that's really useful for all students, is if you can get a good sense of your personal voice in an essay, it's so much easier to go ahead and tell someone what you're looking for, why they should invest in you. Remember that you're trying to convince me as much as anybody else, and never assume that I know enough about you. If you're wondering, should I put a little more information? Do it. It's not going to hurt anything. So one of the questions we've received is, will my tuition be different if I'm coming from out of state? Yes, you're going to receive out-of-state tuition rates. And the reason for that is, if you are a student in the state of Texas or a permanent Texas resident, you have been supplying taxes to the Texas economy, and that is why we get in-state tuition. If you're an out-of-state student, if you receive a scholarship for at least $1,000 or more from Sam Houston State University, you will actually qualify to receive in-state tuition. So I think that that's a really wonderful opportunity, especially for transfer students, okay? Because what I mentioned was the Bearcat Transfer Scholarship earlier that you can get from having a great GPA and for having 48 transferable credit hours, that's not something you have to apply for. Basically, we have a big pot of scholarship money for that particular scholarship, and if you qualify for it and are coming in the fall, you're going to get it. Now, another pro tip is sometimes we run out of these funds for spring semester. Not every student is able to get the transfer scholarship in the spring, but we can almost guarantee that students will get it for the fall. At this point in time, we've never had an issue awarding for fall semester for the Bearcat Transfer Scholarship. And if you do the Bearcat Transfer Scholarship, you would qualify for in-state tuition for at least 2 years while you establish residency. Are you someone that's lived in Texas for a while and you want to establish residency? Something I will tell you is you need to talk to your parents right away if you think that you should be receiving in-state tuition. The big thing for the state of Texas is they want to see that you and your family have been contributing tax dollars to the Texas economy. And what they want to see most of all when trying to establish residency is a few things. For high school students, they want to see that a student has graduated from a Texas high school. They prefer it if you've lived in the state for the last 36 months, and really what they want to see is your tax documents. Not every student is going to need to supply these tax documents because many of you will already be Texas residents and you won't need to submit anything to prove that you are a Texas resident. However, there are going to be a couple of you that fall kind of in that limbo area about whether or not you're going to receive in-state tuition. I highly recommend that you reach out to admissions so we can walk you through this process, as it can be a little difficult. So another question is, we have a question from one of our Louisiana students that they live in a surrounding county to Texas, and they want to know if they'll be granted in-state or out-of-state tuition. That's a great question. So I've mentioned College for All Texans a couple of times now. If you can't tell, it's a pretty great website. If you'd like to see if your bordering county qualifies for in-state tuition, you should check out collegeforalltexans.com, and they have that information. But as a general rule of thumb, if your county touches the Texas border, a lot of times those residents, as a recruiting tool from the state, do qualify for in-state tuition. So we were also asked by a student, when is the deadline to apply for spring 2016? The spring 2016 application is currently open, and the application deadline actually isn't until December 1st. So you have quite a bit of time to go ahead and apply. I will say it never hurts to get ahead of the game. You can go ahead and apply now, and your application won't go anywhere. It'll basically hold until spring 2016 either comes and goes, or until you finish your application. That's another great thing about being a freshman. A lot of freshmen talk to me a lot about being worried about their application expiring. Just so you know, it doesn't. It holds out there for you. So if you're wondering about, do you need to send transcripts first? Do you need to send test scores first? How do I send in a fee waiver or my application fee? It's always good to know that the first step should always just be going online to the Apply Texas website and applying. Everything else can be handled later, but that application is the most important part because it tells us you're interested in coming to Sam Houston State. Okay, at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and stop broadcasting. I want to thank you all for your attention and your time today. I will say that if you have any other questions, you're always free to contact us at admissions, and if you have any questions about financial aid or scholarships, you're always free to contact financial aid at Sam Houston State University. At this time, we are conducting a live chat session through College Week Live, so if you'd like to log in now, you're more than welcome to do that. I hope you all have a wonderful night, and eat 'em up, cats.